Hello, my name is Robert Grizzle, and this is my discussion post for American Revolution through Liberty University Online. The topic I want to speak on for this presentation is Patriot versus Tory, America's First Civil War. The thesis that I'm working with for this research project states, while the Revolution pitted American colonies against the British Empire, the colonies in many areas were in a state of civil war. This state resulted from a British political vacuum, which resulted in conflict between brothers and neighbors and devolved into feuds and vendettas. Patriot militia control in many areas was the result of this secondary war. The source that really drew my attention and got me started into this was actually a result of some personal family research. It is a pension application for Lewis Powell, and it is available online, and it is in his own handwriting, but someone has managed to do a transcript of it. According to this pension application, it states that he entered the service of the United States under the following named officers and served as herein after stated to wit in the county of Robeson in the state of North Carolina some 5 or 6 months. And this is actually there's a couple of entries where he talks about it, and this was before the capture of Charleston, South Carolina. And when you go on down, it says the object of the above embodiment of the militia was to counteract, and if it the operations of the Tories who had assembled together below them at or near a swamp called Waccamaw. The deponent constantly served under the above mentioned draft and was there discharged. And there's actually several mentions of fighting Tories, and it's closer to the end. It actually states this company served 6 months. He served several tours during this time. It says this company served 6 months, the deponent serving and remained with said company the whole of the time and was then discharged. This service was performed in the county of Robeson against the Tories and for the protection and defense of the Whig citizens. And he thinks that it is said last mentioned tour was performed about the time of or not long before the Battle of Guilford Courthouse in North Carolina. This, of course, is in the Southern campaign, during the Southern campaign. There are actually more stories, though. In a book entitled An Historical Journal of the American War, extracts from the publications of the Massachusetts Historical Society, Thomas Pemberton states that in October of 1776, it concerns that there was a confrontation between approximately 100 Tories and a group of Continental soldiers. The result was a rout that left 20 taking Tories dead and many more taken prisoner. The second was an entry that talks about taking of Newport, Rhode Island, where Clinton and Commodore Parker's naval expedition on December of 1776 came ashore because the Tories had taken over the town. So as you can see, there's a conflict, even as far north as Rhode Island, between the Tories and the Whigs or Patriot Continentals. This conflict would become extremely savage in the South. Robert S. Davies, in his book Civil War in the Midst of Revolution, this is an article from the Georgia Historical Quarterly, said he talks about what Cornwallis and Clinton's strategy was. Said the Southern strategy that set the stage for the Battle of Briar Creek, which occurred in Georgia, was the brainchild of an increasingly desperate British ministry. William Knox, formerly the Georgia Provost Marshal and advisor to the British Secretary for the Colonies, George Germain, during the Revolution, first proposed that a new effort be made to reach the Loyalists in the southern colonies. This plan called for an invasion of Georgia that Germain believed would restore the former colonies at least as far north as Maryland. This, of course, did not work. And one of the more interesting stories from the South can be found in a book entitled Liberty's Exiles, America's Loyalists in the Revolutionary War by Maya Jazanoff. She talks about a man named Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown was actually known by many people at the time as Burntfoot Brown. Brown was born in England but came to Georgia and with the idea of making his fortune. About the time the war started, he was confronted by a group of the Sons of Liberty here in Georgia, and when he refused to turn against the crown or pledge loyalty against the crown, Brown was actually taken. He was he was hit. His skull was fractured. He was tar and feathered, and eventually hung up over a fire and roasted, which is where he gets the name Burntfoot. His feet were horribly damaged because of the being held over the fire like they were. And after this, though, to show you how savage things got, he served as commander of a loyalist cavalry of King's Rangers under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Archibald Campbell. So, as you can see, there was a lot of antagonization on both sides, and that is basically a good description of my research topic for this course. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.